have some stuff where it's not just questions, but I wanted to just list, here's the price stuff, right? We're going to cover a lot of this stuff in the explanation or the education part next week and the handling objections the week after. But if you're hearing it's too much, first of all, there's two sides to that. There's, I can't afford it, and there's too expensive. I can't afford it, I like to hear, because that means they want it, they just can't swing that. And that's fine. Show them something smaller they can. If they can't, you're not going to do much. It's too expensive means I have all the control. The difference is too expensive is a value thing, right? So value means they are not seeing they're getting enough for what they're paying. So for it's too much or too expensive, here are a few things you can do. And I just kind of made a list for Rob on there, and not all of this apply. Most of it doesn't apply to the questions, but the first thing is the easiest way to close a sale is to be in front of a good prospect. We've all had those sales where you didn't even they just came in and they say, can I just sign up before class? That's awesome. So how do you get those prospects? Well, tighten up your targeting on social media. You can do that. Are you doing door hangers in the right area? Are you advertising in the right spots? And then what does your referral business look like? How much energy to put in referrals? Because referrals are the easiest customers. People that are referred by happy members are your easiest prospects to sign up. So I would look at those three avenues for getting better people in. After finding better prospects, the next thing is your conviction. What is the conviction for your people? How bulletproof is your staff? Where if they hear an objection, does that really hurt them? And does that hurt their confidence in your product? And we hear a lot about product conviction, but the other part to that is price conviction. And with most of our models, the people who are selling the memberships are generally not the same target demographic as your customers. They don't have the same income as your customers. They don't have the same, spending habits as your target customers. And so price conviction can be a big one. We'll dig a lot into that next week. We'll talk about that, but I would really dig into the conviction of your staff, both product and price. And especially, fitness, there's a million fitness things out there. So it's easy for somebody to come in and say, well, how does it handle compared to this? And your staff member doesn't have a good answer, and that puts a big dent in their conviction. So I'd really look at the conviction of your staff. Then the next part after conviction is building value. Really watching those intro classes and making sure, is the experience way outperforming that person's expectations? When I took my mom to introduce her to Orange Theory, there was only, I think, 2 open at the time in Washington. So I took her to an intro class, and I was next to her, and on the right side of me, there was another intro. That intro left the class halfway through, in which I've rarely seen ever happen. And my mom was completely lost. And if it wasn't for me working out next to her, she would have thought, this is crazy. I don't know how people are going to do that. And this is me trying to sell my mom on, hey, let's go into business together, right? And I'm like, great, this coach is botching this whole class. So that had nothing to do with the salesperson, right? That coach just didn't deliver on that class. And so are you really watching to, is the members' experience way outperforming their expectations? So, and if it's not, right, then you got to look at, was it how they delivered it, or also how were those expectations set? Where it was their expectation. Sometimes it's they gave a great class, but it wasn't what the person expected. So you got to look at your whole process and saying, where is the breakdown of consistency of communication? So is your staff focusing on the right things also when they're building value? If you have a Facebook members group, I would just send out a quick poll and say, what are your favorite things about Cycle Bar or Massage Envy or whatever your brand is? What are your top 2 favorite things? And give a little checkbox one and poll your members, because your staff might be promoting, why we're so great is because of this. And the truth is most of your members don't really care about that. They care about a couple other things. So, that's why we ask questions, to get it more personalized, but make sure there's no breakdowns in there. And then we've talked about this, and this is where it really replies to the questions, but getting the questions to why they came to you right now versus, we're primarily fitness. So sorry, Massage Envy on this explanation, but there's a million different HIIT style classes out there, or they could go buy a Peloton, Rob, right? And so why did they come to you? because there's some level of interest if they actually drove their car to get to you, right? There's some level of interest there. So this is all the whole purpose of the questions is diving into that interest as far as we can go, finding the concerns, and then answering those concerns before they get a chance to voice them. That's where we're really asking our questions is, are we really digging into that interest? Are we finding their concerns? And then are we addressing? And then the last part about handling it's too much is just wimpy closing. You know, how is your person asking for the sale? You know, this will be all, we're going to talk about asking for the sale next week and then handling objections on week 4. But are they using that approach we'll talk about with handling objections of listening, clarifying the actual objection, not, you know, getting caught up in the smoke screens, and then providing good solutions. And then body language is everything when you're wrapping up a sale. You know, we mentioned that it's the 93% is your tone and your body language. If their tone doesn't match their words, so if their words are saying the right thing, but their tone and body language is squinting like, please don't hit me when I'm asking you to buy it, the customer is always going to go with your body language, right? So even if that person's saying the right thing, but they're like wincing, you know, is their tone and their body language confident? Is that coming across? Because a beat up staff with poor expectations will almost always be losing more sales than they should. And, you know, a lot of times it's we don't dig into it quickly enough, and their first couple no sales, they start forming their expectations, and they start asking with the expectation that person's going to say no, the expectation that person's going to say it's too much, or can I think about it, or I need to talk to my spouse. And your customers are going to feed off of your staff. And so if that's where the expectation is, if you give your customer an out, they're going to take it every time, right? They might be super excited, and then they come across this nervous staff member and they're like, should I be nervous about something? Maybe I won't get it today, right? That's just that transfer of energy that Marla mentioned too at the beginning. So, you know, when somebody setting those proper expectations with your staff, this is where we should be closing. We should be at this percentage, right? And then when they win, when they get the sale, it's celebrating it, but it's not celebrating the sale. It's celebrating how they did it more than what they accomplished. Hey, you asked great questions right there. And then I love how you brought that back and you talked about her going on walks with her grandkids or whatever it was she mentioned. Like, you mentioned the specifics on how they did it, not what they did. Hey, you made a sale. Great. No, that doesn't reinforce any of the good behavior. That just reinforces going after the sale. Reinforce how they did it. And then when they didn't do that, when they didn't make a sale, you didn't get that outcome, is you talk about that win-learn mentality. Hey, no sale, no problem. Not everybody buys. Where do you think you would have changed it up if you had to do that over again, right? What do you think you could have done better next time? And when they come up, help them, ask them questions, help them walk through it and get them at least one thing. I mean, every time somebody has a no sale, even if it was the most impossible no sale, there's no way that person was going to buy, there still should be at least be able one thing they could have done better. And when they come up with that thing from you asking them questions, celebrate that. Celebrate, awesome. Next time you're going to be better. And that's great. So no matter what happens on the outcome of a sale, you're either celebrating how they did it, the behavior that you want, or you're celebrating that, okay, next time I'm going to improve. And you're celebrating that mentality of, okay, it's okay for a no sale. I'm going to brush it off. I'm going to be better next time. And when you reinforce that, your staff is going to respond so much differently that if you don't have those conversations consistently and those no sales start to get to them, and then pretty soon they're just asking with the expectation that you don't want to buy it, do you? Right? and you get that. So that's my kind of price objection all put together, covering multiple different topics there.
Okay.